the Overman Warrior Podcast.
The market's crashed! Grab the booty! Let the booty fall! Plunder the exchange! Take the wealth!
The merger is complete. All assets secure.
All right, Rich Hoffman here. So there's no way to talk about preserving Ohio's or the country's financial stabilization without discussing something that is a natural byproduct of over-institutionalism into the financial sector. It's a term that came up recently, and again, this is a discussion I've had with Senator Lang and the state treasurer of Ohio, and there's a movement in Ohio. I think Senator Lang is going to be one of the leaders of it, and it's going to certainly evolve under a Vivek Ramaswamy administration coming up. Late 2026, 2027. And that is the principles that come from Kevin Freeman on pirate money. And that is creating a gold reserve within a state that's managed by the state that issues like a debit card that you can use to make all your purchases that hold all the value of your money to that gold standard. You can't have that conversation because also a part two of making the infrastructure for that is you have to divorce people from a trend that has emerged in modern society that's been driven by Wall Street, that has taken over Main Street. And I have had a front row seat to some of this. And in my life, I have done everything that is possible as an adult human being to avoid getting pulled into this vortex. But unfortunately, just like a black hole at the center of the Milky Way, all matter revolves around it and gets pulled into its energy anyway. And that is the financialization of all economies. That means where you make money off making money. So you make money off interest rates, you make money off inflated debt or the trading of debt, like baseball cards. When you buy people's debt and you trade it to somebody else's debt, this is how BlackRock gained all the power that it's gained through financialization. That's what all the main hedge funds have done, and private equity firms have done, and that's why this trend, and this is something that Senator Lang and I have talked about extensively, is the danger of this. Now, if that's the rules of the game, and this is the other side of the coin, literally, I know a lot of people who have made vast amounts of money off financialization. And they are very rich because of it. And it's making, and when they say the rich get richer, or there's more people getting rich off this financialization process, the buying of debt, the selling of debt, the management of that debt, the control of the interest rates, that mechanism, the game, the shuffleboard game that goes on through financialization has made a lot of people very wealthy. But my argument and my position is I have not played that game. And people wonder why, and they want to know why I don't have a swimming pool full of cash that I can swim in. That's a deliberate decision that I've made, not one where I didn't have the opportunity to make it. Looking back on decisions just over this last year, or the last 5 years, or the last 10 years, last 30 years, there have been many, many, many times where those opportunities were at my foot. And out of principle, I did not embrace it, because my raw intellect on how economy should work is off making products. And they should be generated off Main Street, not Wall Street. Wall Street can benefit, they could ride the coattails, they can't drive the narrative. Because always, economy should be measured on what they're making, what you're making. And this is, I think, and I remember it in college myself. I never liked it. all the economics classes, they all taught this financialization bit because that was the trend, and you're taught to follow the trends, not to make them, not to shape them. I think Trump has done his own version of financialization, but he stuck it to hard assets like real estate. He didn't really go out there and play the money markets to the extent that his friends, fellow billionaires did, where you invest in ideas and the trading of those ideas as fiat currency. And then if you have a relationship with government, such as BlackRock did, they can prop you up with printed phony money through model monetary theory and give you the ability to acquire stuff with that made up money that you wouldn't have had power to do any other way. I'm all about making actual assets, build an economy off real goods and services. That means if you're in the hamburger business, you make hamburgers, and if you make a great hamburger, you get rich. If you make great tires for cars, you get rich off the having a better product than everybody else. If you build homes, you should make money off having better homes, not on the leveraged assets or the ability to control interest rates or to convert a farm into a bunch of residential properties that have an alignment with a bank and maybe some private equity firms who have invested in it, and then everybody divides out the cash on the projected revenue over a course of many years that neighborhood exists. The inflated bubble that a lot of that value is built on isn't built on hard actual value. The value of the wood, the value of the fireplace and how it went together, the stone that's used in it. It's how much could you get for the cheapest price at Home Depot or some other outlet that's selling lumber, and how cheaply could you build the house, and then how much can you change the value of it at the top end. So I've avoided dealing with people who are wealth creators through financialization, but that has been where we found ourselves on our collision course here, and we have to get back to, and I will always be that person who expects to make products, an economy to make products that are better, that compete in the open market, and the wealth generated from it comes from that ability. The ability to build something better than anybody else, and you get the rewards of that. Rather than trading assets, making them as cheaply as possible and selling for the most amount you possibly can, and then using controlled monopolies through money market funds to essentially squeeze everybody else out so that competition is no longer part of it. Leverage and power gained through phony fiat money is. Now we have to have a hard discussion before you can really reform that in Ohio and in the country in general. Trump's short-term plan for the economy is to just throw a lot of gas on the fire, pin up wet wood that we had, throw a lot of gas on it, turn it into a roaring blaze, and then jumpstart an economy so you can have these intelligent discussions. But why everybody has the money in their pocket from this freshly created wealth, you have to think about how you can protect that value over time. And this Kevin Freeman pirate money concept, the gold standard in states, which is where Ohio wants to go, and senators like George Lang, and he's certainly got the ear of the treasurer and other representatives in Ohio to take it in that direction. Once there's a governor who can get their arms around it and understand it, and actually create value and protect that value in the future, you really have to get back to the basics. If you're talking about a gold standard being attached to your money supply, you also have to have an economy that gets down to the value of the product, Main Street's production of that product, as opposed to the old-fashioned or this new method that goes against the old-fashioned way of producing this financialization of money. Now, what makes me really sick about that process, you see it in industry, and I see it everywhere. This is the idea that people can work Tuesday through Thursday, take long vacations to the Bahamas on the weekends, and can pretty much be 9 to 5ers at 5 o'clock. you go live your life, and you don't answer the phones on weekends. There's a lot of big companies that have migrated in that direction, and these are companies that are supposed to be making stuff. It makes me sick to my stomach to go around and see so many plants closed on a Saturday or a Sunday or in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning. That is because they are leveraging all their profitability off financialization that has promised them, been taught to them in college. It's been migrated up through all the finance books over time. It's been advocated by the central banks and certainly attached to the Federal Reserve. And that is, if you need more money, let's all have a nice warm hug. Let's go to the Tetons and talk about it. Jackson Hole, and make sure we get a nice latte down the road at Starbucks and talk about big policies and take them over to our meeting place for the Federal Reserve and look at the pretty mountains and talk about how we can print money and take care of everybody's problems and use interest rates to make everybody who invests in this system wealthy. Which is why the Federal Reserve is so reluctant to lower interest rates, because there's a lot of people making money off those interest rates. Not the people that the money is supposed to serve, but the people who have attached themselves with fiat currency to that money supply. And the banks have to use interest rates to pay back everybody who invests in them. So this artificial interest rate financialization game has really kind of took us to a precipice of no return. And that's why all these big companies have this attitude of, hey, at 5 o'clock, I'm out of here. I'm ordering my lunch at 9 o'clock in the morning. No one ever gets anything done anymore. No one's working hard anymore. No one really attaches success and financial prosperity to the product produced like they used to. And so they don't think about working second and third shifts. They don't think about working weekends, 3 shifts, 7 days a week. Because they don't have to deliver a product. They just have to work and leverage money, make money off interest rates, make sure they're on the right side of those interest rates from the Federal Reserve, make sure that they have leveraged fiat money in a way that they can make all the money they need, and they don't have to work very hard to get it. So it's infused. Financialization has produced an entire class, an entire generations now, but entire generations of people who are very lazy. And they might know a few things about their specific field of endeavor, but outside that specificity, they're not very smart. And they certainly don't work very hard. And when it comes time for their personal time, they don't answer the phone. They go home at 5 o'clock. They don't do anything extra. They think as long as they give you a good solid 8 hours out of their day, and this is executives who think this, as long as they give you a good solid 8 hours, they don't want to die of a heart attack. They don't want to go home and spend time with the family, which is all good stuff. But they don't have to worry about making money, because they're making money off financialization, and they get a lot of money for not doing a whole lot, not actually producing products, and it's made them lazy, and it really lowers what their families think of them. You might have great things, nice house, nice cars to drive, but then you become like the dad in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You're out of touch. Kids kind of overlook you. They don't really care that you've brought a whole lot of money home to them to enjoy. They'd rather have someone who has a stout heart, who actually does things that are important in the world, and you measure that importance based on the things you make. And that means you need to have an economy attached to goods. Main Street needs to be generating the money, not Wall Street. And when it comes to fiat money and leveraged money that gets flowed through Wall Street, like the Black Rocks, and everybody's taken over that financialization racket at the expense of actually producing hard goods and services that people value. When you have created that kind of world, you now have a phony world full of phony people who are lazy and aren't doing enough, and it shows in our economy. And it's because you have too many people just taking suds off the top through financialization, and they're not working very hard to get a disproportionate amount of money that is not attached to actual goods and services. So you can't really go attach yourself to a gold standard, because as we took ourselves off the gold standard, Nixon took us off of it, I think in 73. FDR got us off of it during the Red Decade, 1933, I think it was. And when you remove value like that and then put it into a managed currency that the Federal Reserve, through centralized banking, is controlling, and you leave it to them to control the value of that money, and then they can find that they can all get rich off selling those financial services, to investors, and they have to maintain interest rates at a high rate in order to satisfy those investors, and that's how everybody's moved their companies. And then you use that power to buy people's hard-won assets, and you've taken a company that traditionally produces a physical asset that the world wants, and you've turned it into a financialization racket scheme where everybody just leaves, goes home at 5 o'clock, nobody ever gets anything done, everybody's working from home, everybody's taking a year of vacation and expect to get paid because their work and their efforts are not attached to actually producing money. So it's not just the gold standard that we've removed our economy from. We actually removed our economy from actually making hard assets. And I am a hardcore make the hard assets kind of person. And I've had great sacrifices in my life to be that way. And I'm not going to be changing now. The world around me may be going in that black hole. They may all want to go down the financialization racket, but I'm just telling you right now, everybody, this is a fair warning. You cannot build a sustainable future with that mentality. And that idea is dying. It's dying as we speak. The states like Ohio and Texas and other places are looking to go put their currency on a gold standard. And as that happens, companies are going to have to reevaluate how they manage value with shareholder investment and get back to measuring your profit charts on products produced and the output that you actually make that the people out there want to buy, and they appreciate the value of that product and are willing to pay for it at whatever price you set, because they value the brand that makes them. You still get measured based on producibility and manufacturing. And are you working past 5 o'clock each day because so many people in the world want your thing? Are you working on Saturdays and Sundays? Do you have an engaged workforce that actually produces every day? Or are you phony blowing it and making money off phony spreadsheets that are propped up through financialization, where you live off interest rates and gap closures on pricing that is disproportionately high, but the product level and the output didn't match that higher rate, meaning that you're making money just simply off the delta of phony value that was generated in emergency conditions, where this Wall Street version of producibility has taken over the entire economy. And you can't go back to the gold standard where you hold value of dollars and get rid of the inflation from the Fed's printing of that money when your economy in general is making money off financialization and not the production of hard assets. So in all aspects of economy, economic output, you got to get back to measuring your economy and your output and your health, financial health, based on what you actually make and how much of it do you make and what's your true capacity and the world's ability to pay for what you can make within that capacity. Until you define that, it's all phony, baloney money built off a pyramid scheme of financialization, and you cannot build an entire healthy economy for years and years and decades and decades and decades and pass that on to your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids and future generations unless you attach your economy to the production of hard material goods. So it's more of a discussion that requires an advanced understanding beyond just putting your money to a gold standard. You have to have your economy attached to hard assets and not the hocus pocus of financialization driven by Wall Street card sharks who are in it for the short run. They'll point over and show you their beautiful residents and their fancy cars and their expensive vacations that they have on Central Park, and talk about how much wealth they've acquired in life. And I have personally had that opportunity to acquire a lot of wealth, and I've attached my life to the production of hard assets in everything I do, and I've avoided this financialization temptation at every step of the way. And now we're having hard discussions about the economy and how to properly make it go forward. And I'm just telling you, that's where it was all along. And everybody else is going to have to get where I'm at. I'm not going where they are because it was always a phony game for phony people. to look like they're much more powerful than they really were, but it was just numbers on paper that they could manipulate through financialization, and it never really meant anything because they didn't really produce anything. It was all just spreadsheets and faking things in a way that made people feel like it was a pyramid scheme they could invest in, and they made money off the interest rates until people called them on it. And we're at a place now where that whole game is over. Trump will get the economy back on track in his 4 years, and it's going to be up to us to protect the value of that and go forward with a stable policy that gets the economy back in the hands of Main Street and away from Wall Street. Because these Wall Street numbers, even though Trump touts them as a great thing, it's happening during his watch. It's all built on financialization. And if it's really truly built on true assets that the world wants, it's much harder to get wealthy that way, but the wealth actually means something. And that's where we're all going to have to come to terms and embrace that hard reality. Value isn't real value unless it's attached to something that people want, not just phony money on a spreadsheet. And that's mostly what you find the Dow Jones is. It's all propped up through financialization and bank manipulations than actually making good hard assets that are sold by a brick and mortar store or even Amazon, where you have a physical something in your hand that means a lot to you and you're willing to pay for it. If you don't have an economy built on that, then it's all phony. And my statement on wealth creation is I'm always going to attach myself to hard assets and physical output actually produced. I've done that all my life so far, and I'm not changing it now. But a lot of people have bitten from that forbidden fruit. They've eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil in relation to financial stability that they learned in college. And financialization was their ticket to that short-term paradise. But in the end, they find they were cast from the true garden of paradise. They should have been eaten from the knowledge of eternal life and not eaten from that forbidden fruit, which financialization represents in our culture. And they wonder why they got sick and why their life is falling apart in every frontier of it. And it's because of that. Got to attach your life to actual goodness and things produced, not phony ghost money made and conjured up by modern monetary theory, quantitative easing, and financial tricks that centralized bankers use to make themselves rich and not have to work too hard and work banker hours, and then expect the rest of the world and manufacturing to follow them over that cliff, which is what most manufacturing has done in the United States to its detriment. And we have to dust it off and revitalize it. There is no other choice. And you'll remember that I told you that. Nobody else is telling you that, but I'm telling you that. And you either get on board with it or you're going to be left behind. And that's the hard reality. Don't say I didn't tell you so. Anyway, it's Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. And in that guide to business, I talk about these things in great detail. And I've warned people for a long time. Listen at your own profit. You'll do much better in life. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
Thank you for listening.